All right, hello everyone. Thanks for joining back in with us for our live Q&A session. This is Chris from DecoNetwork, and I'll be answering your questions today. Uh, let's see, looks like we already have someone here on the chat. Um, T-shirt DecoNet asking about customer custom fields that we covered on the last session. What specifically is it that you were looking for more information on related to those customer fields? All right, in the meantime, I'll go ahead and just pull up a couple tips that we can go over in the meantime while we wait for that clarification on the question related to customer fields. All right, since it is new, we keep coming back to the page editor as far as showing off tips. It is a majority of the questions that we get recently due to the fact that it is such a new tool and people are still trying to kind of understand it. So we'll jump in there just for a quick tip. Um, and then we'll head off to whatever questions you guys have after that. All right, so I've pulled up here my web page editor. We'll give it a couple minutes to load up here. All right, and what we can cover today uh, is one of these widgets down here at the bottom of the widget editor, which is the list of links option. So the list of links option is what we use uh, for the footer by default. It's going to bring in some of those default pages like your shipping information, your returns policy, your terms and conditions. But it's a pretty powerful widget. It can be used not just to, have one link, but a series of links. There's two types of items that it can be set up to show. A group link, which is kind of a set of links. For example, your main navigation, child pages of a specific page or wherever you're adding that widget onto. Or you can do a single link, which again could be a page from your system, either a system page like those printing information, shipping information, or something from your navigation like the home page, your about page, the designer page. But you can also have it linked to a web address. So if you select web address under link, you'll be able to type in a direct web URL that the link would go to, and that can be some external catalog that maybe you want to link to or whatever the case might be. But by combining these sets of multiple links, you can create some um, nice listings for your customers to go to. And what we're showing here is kind of the different layout options that we have. Most likely you're going to be using a vertical option, especially if you're using it here in the footer so that it doesn't just kind of go across the page there. Um, you can do things like change the font and the color of the links. And in addition to that, you can actually also enable a hover state for those links, which is it's a newer option that we added in the last update that we released. So um, we've got, the default color, let's say red. You can then edit hover and set a hover color for those links as well. So let's say maybe green. We can go ahead and set that color, close that out, hit OK, and save that. All right, so if we take a look at our preview, we can go and see what those changes would look like on our live site. All right, and there it is. So we've got our red links, and as we hover over those, they transition to the green color that we selected as our hover color. All right, so some nice options for the design of your links, both in your footer or wherever you might want to drop that list of links widget into. All right, let's go ahead and jump into another quick tip here. Uh, this one is related to the contact page. So we had a couple users actually um, mention that they weren't receiving the emails from their contact form. And what you'll want to do is whenever you do set up your contact page, make sure that under the recipient field, you set up a valid email address there. I believe at this time it defaults to this uh, non-valid email address, test@test.com. So you actually have to go in there and put a value into that field. So info@mycompany.com or whatever you're using there. Wherever you want to receive the emails that are submitted through this contact form, you'll want to set that as the receiving address. All right, make sure that you do that when you're setting up your contact page, or maybe you're setting up a separate contact form somewhere else on your site. And again, you want to make sure to set that recipient email address every time. All right, I'm not seeing clarification on that question related to customer fields, but let's just jump there and see if we can't maybe just address those questions by going through it in a little bit more detail. Okay, so I believe the last time we covered, an option of how you would add a field like teacher's name, which would be a drop down with a few different options to select from. And then that field data would be able to uh, be viewed from both Business Hub, and we also walk through how to include that in your invoice sheet, which you might print out and actually hand out as part of handing out the orders for a site. All right. I believe we did also cover how to define which fields are visible at which stage of the shopping process or the order creation process. That's done by clicking Define Field Usage. There you'll see the full matrix of fields that you have and then the different stages where they might show. So you can tick whether they're going to be visible or not, and you can also tick whether they're going to be required or not at that stage as well. All right, so by combining which fields you have enabled and which fields you're showing, you can have some pretty flexible setups as far as what you want to show. One thing that we may not have covered last time is the ability to have those fields in some stores but not others. Um, so let's say, one of your stores is a school shop, and so you have that field for teacher's name. And then on a separate store, you might be doing like a company store. And instead of collecting a teacher's name, you're collecting a department, right? So you can have multiple fields, but not have them available to all of your stores by unchecking all stores, clicking select stores, and then selecting which of your stores you want that field in. So this way you can have a field like department in one store and teacher's name in another. All right, so you can differentiate that way. Um, and then each field obviously could be configured correspondingly. So we'll say there's a sales department, there's we'll see there's an art department and a production department. All right, so that's what we're looking to collect there. Let's go ahead and save our changes here. Yeah, so we did on that last session cover how to include that information in the invoice. I believe my site is still set up to do that, so we can quickly go over that again. It's done through the email and order template section, order templates. Uh, Keep in mind, email and order templates may be a paid option depending on which plan you're on. If you're on the multi-store plan, you should have access to it already. All right, if you're on a single store plan, you may need to actually uh, pay an additional service for that fee. Okay, so let's take a look at order. I believe that's where we added it in last time. And when you go into edit your order template, you're going to click into the customize template section, and then you're going to turn on the customize default template option. And that should give you the HTML code where you would go in and add the information. All right, looks like I've actually changed mine since we showed it last, so we could go through it again quickly here. Let me just reset mine. So let me copy over the default, paste it back into the custom, save that, and then we'll just redo that again. So we'll go into order, customize template. All right, I believe last time we said we wanted it, maybe right next to the maximum delivery days. So what we can do is just add a new line there. We wanted it with the same formatting as all these other items. So you can essentially copy one of these lines, which shows there at the top of the invoice, and paste it where you want your information to show. All right, let's scroll back down to that section. So this is where we're going to include our information, and let's say we want the teacher's name. So we can add a label there for teacher's name, and then we want to include that information that we collected from our customer. So last time we mentioned how we have a blog post that includes that information. Let me just quickly search for it here again. All right. So from here, we'll look for invoice. And here's the article that we're looking for. So how to create custom registration fields and include them in your invoice. So this walks you through some of what we've already done with creating those fields. Once you have them created, if you're just looking to include them in your invoice, you can skip down here to step 8, which includes the format that you'll need for the field name, right? So it's customer dot custom underscore fields dot and then the name of your field. And it's alphanumeric only. So you're replacing any non-alphanumeric characters, A through Z, 0 through 9, with underscores. So if you have an apostrophe or a space or a pound sign, anything like that, those are getting replaced with an underscore. All right, so we just copy that format there. We'll switch back to our template and we'll just type it in, customer.customField dot, and then double check our name here, teacher's name. So teacher underscore S, we're replacing that apostrophe with an underscore, and then replace the space as well, name. So teacher's name, just like that, we can go ahead and save that. And that should be it. If we take a look at Business Hub, I should have an old order with that information collected. So let's double check that we have it there. We'll jump into customers. Okay, so looks like we'll save it there. All right, so let's save a customer to have that information. So now we've got John Doe here. Let's quickly create an order for him. Let's add a product. Let's hit save. And then we'll do view as customer so we can see where that field is now being included in the invoice. All right, so we'll do view as customer. All right, and so there's where it should be showing teacher's name. It's not actually pulling in, so let's double check that both our customer has that information and that we configured that field correctly on the template. So let's go back to John Doe. Let's try another option there. All right, not showing, so let's double check our template. We'll go order, customize template. Let's check it here. So customer, custom field. All right, so I'm missing the S there. Custom fields. Let's save that. And let's just refresh our customer view. And sure enough, there it is. So it's not pulling in Mr. Gold, which is the teacher's name that we selected for John Doe, which is the customer on this order. All right, so it's fairly simple to do them up here. If you wanted to include them somewhere else, it's still the same placeholder that you're going to use, but as far as formatting and the HTML and things like that, you may need the help of someone on your team who's a little bit maybe web savvy and things like that, or you can always reach out to like a web programmer and things, or someone like that. All right, great. So let's see, we have another question here from Justin who's asking about adding specific colors to decoration processes. Specifically, he's using the transfer process. He's using it for vinyl, and he only offers about 20 different colors. Okay, so yeah, we can take a look at decoration process color palettes. Now, I do want to clarify before we jump into that. At this time, we don't have a process specifically set up to support vinyl. So the transfer process that we have today is intended for use with pre-printed transfers. Um, Vinyl has a bit more requirements similar to what a process like screen printing might have, which, you know, includes things like limited color palette, uh, you know, recognizing how many colors are used in a specific design so that how many different colors of vinyl is the customer using. So down the line, we do have plans to support vinyl specifically with all of its constraints. In the meantime, we do have a lot of customers who use or reuse a process that they're not using for something like vinyl. So, it's an understandable workaround, and so let's take a look at how you might do that. I've got my transfer process here set up in my decoration processes list. And the first thing that I would do if I was using transfer for something like vinyl is rename the process. So under the general section for that decoration method, you can go in and give it a new name. So we'll call it vinyl heat press. All right, so you can save that name change. And then as far as the colors, we're going to go into color palettes. Now, assuming you're doing vinyl, really the key is to not allow the customer to just kind of create their own design regardless of the colors, right? You want to have specific colors that you actually have that vinyl that you're going to cut into in specific colors. So you want to define what those colors are and allow them to use just those colors. So what you'll do is under color palettes for the transfer process, you want to uncheck allow color slider in color picker window. You want to turn that option off. Leaving this enabled means that the customer is actually going to be able to set any color they want, right? With that color slider, they can create any hue, any tint of color possible, right? So you're going to turn that option off. Let's go ahead and save that change. What this means is that the end user is going to be limited to select only colors that are defined in the color palettes that you make available. Right, so we're back in the color palette screen. Now what we'll do on the top right corner is we'll press the Add Palette button. All right, so when you're adding a new palette, you can do it one of two ways. You can create an empty palette, or you can copy an existing palette that you might already have. So right now we don't have anything, so we're going to create an empty palette, and we're going to call that vinyl colors. All right, so I see my new palette listed there. I can now go ahead and press Manage next to it and go into Edit. And it's going to give me this pop-up here where I can start adding colors into the palette. There's a few different ways that you can define your colors. We have the option for RGB, red, green, blue values, HTML, which is RGB in hexadecimal format, and then CMYK. So it really doesn't matter which option you use. It's really more in terms of what's easier for you to supply. Most likely RGB is the easiest. It's what most people are familiar with if you've used a design application like CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator. It's common for those RGB values to be there. So what we can do is we can add a few colors in here, and we can just start naming them. So we'll start with the easiest one, white, and it's those same maxed out values for all red, all green, all blue. Then we'll do black, all zeros. We can do red, green, and blue, just leaving those maxed out there. So right now, I guess I'm kind of cheating. I'm just going with the easy colors here. But if you have specific vinyl sheets that you're trying to color match, the you could do it two ways. You can, cut off a little piece and sit there in your design application trying to match it by eye. Um, hold the cut sheet of vinyl next to the color that you're seeing on screen and try and match it. Do keep in mind that, your monitor calibration may not match someone else's, so keep that in mind. What I would do in the case where I was trying to match a specific color, I might scan that sheet of vinyl and then match it that way. Just kind of sample the scan of that vinyl. Okay. But again, right now I'm just kind of using some simple colors here. All right, so we'll just set up some of these other ones. We'll do yellow. We'll do magenta. We'll do cyan. All right, and we'll do, let's say, gray. All right, so those are the vinyl colors that I carry and the ones that I want to offer. So I've defined all of those colors in my color palette. I can go ahead and press OK and hit save. And now let's take a look at, we'll open up the designer page on another tab here so we can see what that's going to look like inside of the designer tool. What's the user going to have access to? So we'll open up the designer. Let's try the back view here. We'll say add text, add vinyl heat press text. You'll notice since I changed the name of my process, it's changed it here in the designer as well. So rather than saying add transfer text, it's now saying add vinyl heat press text. All right, so we'll add a couple lines of text there. We'll center those. Let's choose a nicer font here. Something nice and bold. All right, and you'll notice that it's only pulling from those colors that I defined. So if I go into the color picker, I only see those colors that I've defined. So I can grab the cyan, the magenta, the yellow, the blue, the green, the red, all those ones that I defined in my color palette. You'll even see the color palette name there, vinyl colors. But I don't have access to just make my own color, right? I can't go in and say, I want this kind of light purple shade or this dark purple. They'll only be able to choose from the colors that you've predefined. All right, now that goes for text. As far as graphics that are being uploaded, again, unfortunately, that's something where we're still kind of missing some of the pieces where we don't necessarily support uh, vinyl with all of its requirements. We don't limit colors for the transfer process, which is meant for pre-printed transfers. So if you're uploading a graphic, that's still going to be, with its original color. So if I upload a photograph of my family, that's going to be a full color photograph for the transfer process. So that is something to keep in mind. If you're doing vinyl, you might do it only for text. So you might actually come back to the transfer settings and turn off the option to add um, for the user to upload their own designs. So you'll turn that option off. They'll be limited to adding either just text or adding any stock designs that you might make available. Maybe you have some stock designs that are kind of limited color that are suitable for that transfer process that you're reusing for vinyl. And so you could go ahead and still make that available. All right. So it is possible certainly to limit the colors for your process. It is possible to use an existing process that's not necessarily meant for a production method, like using the pre-printed transfer process for vinyl. We have customers using the sublimation process for laser etching. So there are workarounds that you can do, and certainly it's however you make it work. So if it works for you and your customers, then it's definitely an option. All right, great. So let's jump back here. Let's save those last settings there. So I'm actually going to turn off the option to upload designs. And we'll close out of that designer for now. All right, guys. So for today, we're actually going to go ahead and cut today's session short. We are seeing quite a bit of load on the support end, so we're going to jump back to helping other customers. But thanks for joining in. Really appreciate those questions. We'll be back next week on Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern for the next Q&A session. So definitely join back in, and we'll continue to answer you guys' questions. All right, thanks again, and take care. Until the next time.